Hello guys, it's the Unclear 999. Today's video is about why we procrastinate. We all do it. We say we'll start tomorrow, next week, next month. And suddenly, years pass and the dreams we once swore we'd chase are buried under a mountain of excuses. Procrastination is not just laziness. It's not just poor time management. It's something deeper. A complex emotional dance between fear, perfectionism, insecurities, and the brain's own reward system. You see, at its core, procrastination is the art of avoiding discomfort. That uncomfortable task, that assignment, that conversation you keep putting off. They come with risk. The risk of failure, the risk of not being good enough, the risk of confronting your own doubts. And so your brain, trying to protect you, offers you an escape. Do it later, it whispers. Just check your phone first, watch one more video, clean the kitchen, scroll a little longer, and in the moment, you feel relief, temporary comfort, but it comes at a cost. Anxiety builds, guilt creeps in, and the deadline looms even larger than before. Procrastination is also fueled by a powerful enemy, perfectionism. You think, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. So instead of taking small steps, you freeze. You wait for the perfect time, the perfect conditions, the perfect mindset, which never arrives. You tell yourself you work better under pressure, but deep down, you're afraid of starting because starting means confronting your own vulnerability. And sometimes, it's not even fear of failure that holds us back. It's fear of success, because success demands change. It asks us to grow, to be seen, to raise the bar, and that can be terrifying too. Biologically, procrastination is rooted in the clash between the limbic system, the brain's emotional center, and the prefrontal cortex, which governs planning and the limbic system wants comfort, pleasure, safety. Now, the prefrontal cortex knows you need to study, write, build, create for your future. But when the emotional brain wins, you delay. You avoid. You surrender short-term gains at the expense of long-term growth. Your brain gets a dopamine hit from distraction, and you repeat the cycle. You're not broken. You're wired this way. But awareness is the first step toward change. And let's not forget how modern life makes procrastination so easy. We live in an age of instant gratification, where one click can deliver entertainment, validation, food, or escape. You're never more than 10 seconds away from a distraction. And distraction feels better than discipline, at least in the moment, but deep down, you know the truth. Distraction is stealing your life in tiny, invisible pieces. That novel, you said you'd write that business, you said you'd start that degree, you said you'd finish. They all sit quietly in the back of your mind waiting for you to stop avoiding and start becoming. Procrastination can also be a form of self. If you grew up with criticism, unrealistic expectations, or the constant feeling that your best was never good enough, then delaying a task becomes a shield. As long as you haven't tried, you haven't failed. As long as it's not done, it can't be judged. But this protection becomes a prison. You build walls so high that you can't climb over them anymore. And the sad irony, the thing you're afraid of, the judgment, the shame, the imperfection, it only grows stronger the longer you wait. The more you delay, the more pressure you feel, and the heavier the task becomes. But here's the truth. You don't have to be motivated to take action. That's a myth. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Start small, start ugly, start imperfect. Just start, because once you begin, momentum builds. Your brain shifts. Resistance weakens, and every tiny victory, writing a sentence, sending an email, making a call, sends a signal to your brain. I can do hard things. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need a beginning. And beginnings are rarely grand. They're messy, awkward, uncertain, but they matter. So why do we procrastinate? Because we're scared. Because we're overwhelmed, because we've been conditioned to avoid pain and chase pleasure. But the good news, we can retrain our minds, we can break the cycle, we can learn to tolerate discomfort, embrace imperfection, and take action even when it's hard. We can trade the temporary comfort of avoidance for the lasting pride of progress. We can stop waiting for the perfect moment and realize the perfect moment is the one we're reliving in right now. Because your future isn't created later. It's created today, in the small, brave decision to do the thing you've been avoiding. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but now. So how do we break free? How do we stop procrastination from stealing our potential, one undone task at a time? First, we stop waiting for motivation to magically arrive, because motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls like the tide. But discipline is the boat you can build to navigate it. The most successful people in the world aren't always more inspired. They're just better at starting even when they don't feel like it. And that's the secret. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. Even if your hands are shaking, even if your mind is noisy, even if you only have 5 minutes, start anyway. Because action creates clarity. Action builds momentum, and action slowly silences the voice that says, "You're not good enough." The brain loves patterns, and it loves rewards. So the key to consistency is to hack your environment and routine in small, sustainable ways. One of the most effective methods is the 2-minute rule, popularized by productivity experts like James Clear. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. And if a task seems overwhelming, break it down until the first step takes less than 2 minutes. Don't say, write a 20-page paper. Say, open the laptop, write 1 sentence. Don't say, go to the gym. Say, put on my sneakers. Don't wait for energy. Just build a habit so small that it bypasses resistance. Because once you begin, your brain shifts into task mode, and suddenly 2 minutes become 10. 10 becomes 30. And the mountain you feared becomes just another hill you've already started climbing. Another weapon against procrastination is habits. The idea is simple. Pair a new action you're retrying to build with a habit you already have. For example, after I brush my teeth, I'll review my to-do list. After I pour coffee, I'll journal for 5 minutes. After I sit at my desk, I'll write 50 words. When you attach a new behavior to an existing habit, your brain begins to associate them. And that transition becomes smooth, even automatic. This removes decision fatigue, one of procrastination's sneakiest triggers, because the more decisions you have to make, the more likely you are to delay. So, reduce friction. Simplify. Set things up the night before. Lay out your clothes. Set reminders. Use alarms. Let your environment do some of the heavy lifting. So, your willpower doesn't have to carry everything. Speaking of willpower, it's a limited resource, and it gets drained faster by stress, lack of sleep, and multitasking. So instead of fighting yourself all day, build a system that makes it easy to succeed. One powerful technique is time blocking, assigning specific chunks of your day to specific tasks. Not just work sometime today, but from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, I will write. Put it in your calendar like an appointment. Treat it with the same respect you'd give a meeting or a class, because your dreams are just as important as anyone else's priorities. Time blocking gives your brain a clear structure. It says, this is the time for doing, not deciding. And over time, structure reduces the emotional weight of starting. You stop asking when to work. You just show up and begin. But sometimes, the reason we procrastinate isn't about strategy. It's about emotion. We procrastinate because we're anxious, overwhelmed, sad, angry, afraid, and until we address the feeling underneath, we'll keep avoiding the task in front of us. This is where emotional regulation comes in, the skill of noticing your emotional state without being controlled by it. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And what do I need? Sometimes, naming the emotion, I am afraid of failing, or I feel inadequate, reduces its power. From there, you can respond, not react. You can remind yourself, I don't have to be perfect to begin. I just have to be honest. And honesty, especially with yourself, breaks the illusion of avoidance. There's also power in externalizing accountability. Tell a friend your goal, join a study group, set up a co-working session, share your deadline. When someone else is aware of what you're trying to do, it raises the stakes just enough to push you forward. Not through shame, but through support. Human beings are social creatures. When we feel seen, we feel motivated. And when someone believes in us, we start to believe in ourselves. You don't have to fight procrastination alone. In fact, trying to do it all alone is often what keeps you stuck. Another strategy that helps is forgiveness. Yes, forgiveness, because one of the cruelest traps of procrastination is the shame spiral. You delay something, feel guilty, beat yourself up, and then delay it even more. The voice in your head says, "Why are you like this? You're lazy. You'll never change." And that voice becomes louder than your desire to improve. But growth begins the moment you say, "I forgive myself for not being perfect. I forgive myself for the time I lost, but I won't lose another hour to guilt." Guilt looks backward. Growth looks forward. The only way out of the loop is to offer yourself compassion. Then try again. Not tomorrow, but now. Lastly, remember that your identity matters. If you keep saying, "I'm a procrastinator," you'll keep proving yourself right. But if you shift the narrative to, "I'm becoming someone who takes action," everything changes. Identity shapes behavior. So instead of waiting for big wins, build a streak of small victories. Every time you choose to start instead of delay, you reinforce a new version of yourself. Someone capable, resilient, focused, and the more you act like that person, the more real they become. In the end, procrastination is not a moral failure. It's a habit of avoidance that can be it's a symptom of deeper fears that can be faced. And it's a pattern that can be replaced with courage, structure, compassion, and action. You have more power than you think. The next chapter of your life doesn't begin someday. It begins the moment you stop waiting for permission and start showing up for your own potential. Not all at once, but bit by bit, day by day, one task at a time.